Hello everybody, I hope that you're all doing well today. So I wanted to talk for a few minutes about Archaon the Everchosen and how to get a strong start in his campaign. Now, this is specifically referring to how to get started in his campaign when you are using some or all of the mods that I recommend in the best mods for grand strategy. And the reason that I wanted to create a video about this is because there are some factions that have really significant differences when you're using these mods versus how they play at the beginning with vanilla. And Archaon is affected probably just about as much as anybody. So what we are going to do is we are going to talk about how to get a good start in the first, 10 or 12 turns or so with Archaon. We'll see exactly how it plays out because I have in my mind an idea for how far I want to go at the beginning of this video. And I don't know exactly what turn number we will end up getting to. But in any case, we want to figure out what is a good way to start with Archaon. We want to compare how this is going to play out using these grand strategy mods compared to vanilla. And I would also like to just kind of show a couple of choices that you have, a couple of different options that you could go with in terms of the start of your campaign. So let's go ahead and get started. Now to begin with, because this is going to be a more challenging start than vanilla with Archaon, you pretty much want to go ahead and grab any additional units that you can at the beginning of the game. You have a fairly strong army to begin with, and it's a good thing because you will need it. Now notice that you have units that are associated with all of the different chaos gods. This is kind of interesting. It's thematic for him for starters, but you may end up wanting to choose a particular god that you're a little bit more dedicated to than the others. There will be plenty of time for that later on in the campaign, but for now, you want to keep all these units because you really need your army to be as strong as possible here in the early going. And of course, you want to get Prince Ogrix here, and if you'll notice that he is specializing in anti-infantry, as well as being able to do a couple of agent actions. Well, we're going to use them more or less in the army exclusively here in the beginning. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and get him added to your army. And then, of course, you want to go ahead and attack your starting opponent right away. Now, the way that I am going to do this is I'm going to just auto-resolve these early battles for the sake of two things. Number one, expediency. It's going to make this video a whole lot shorter if I don't fight these battles manually. But second of all, I want to basically show you can do, in most cases, you're going to be able to do better than what we get here with our results from auto-resolve if you fight these battles manually. So this is going to sort of be a baseline for how this plays out at worst, and then hopefully if you fight these battles manually you can do a little bit better than what we're going to have happen in this video. So we go ahead and auto-resolve this. As you can see, we didn't lose any units, but we did lose an awful lot of casualties for pretty much across the board here, and that does matter because our next battle is going to be much more difficult than this first one. We also got a couple of levels with Archaon, which is very good, and we're going to need those for sure. In this case, we got ourselves a magic item that's obviously random, so your mileage may vary with respect to that, but that's not going to have that much of an impact on how this campaign plays out. And of course you're going to get this mission successful, so that's good. Get a little bit of additional favor and some souls. Those souls are obviously extremely important for Archaon. And then what we're going to find out right away is the first really significant difference. Well, let's go ahead and apply our skills here real quick. So very important to take Route Marcher when you're using these mods because the campaign movement has been cut in half. And here's our magic item. I obviously didn't get any ancillary, so let's go ahead and take a look then at, even with the extra 5% movement that we just got from Route Marcher, we're not going to be able to reach our next target. Okay, let's go ahead and give the skill up to Ogrux, and then here we go. So since we cannot reach the Writhing Fortress on turn 1, huge change from vanilla, well, what we can do is we can go ahead and go into encampment stance. As long as we're close enough to be able to reach it in turn 2, then that's good enough. Encampment stance will allow us, of course, to get a little bit of replenishment over this first end turn. Now let's take a look at technology here. I obviously don't have any choice here at the very beginning. You got to start with the very first one. It's probably a good rough estimate in your mind to think about using these mods versus vanilla, as everything is going to take twice as long as it does in vanilla and pretty much be more difficult. So I should probably mention the garrison mod that I chose to use for this particular playthrough is the garrison rework. So the second of the 3 that I mentioned in the grand strategy mods. However, it's going to be fairly similar regardless of which of the different garrison mods you chose to use. And let's go ahead and attack the Writhing Fortress here. You'll see right away. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and right away attack the Writhing Fortress. As you can see, we get a Pyrrhic victory. We do lose 4 of our units in the process of doing this. Again, if you fight this battle manually, you probably can do better than that, but since we're just establishing a baseline here, then we're going to go ahead and accept those losses because it's extremely important to take this, your very first Dark Fortress. And it's okay, we'll recover from it. So obviously you want to occupy and vassalize, and so you now have Kull as your first vassal. You have your first Dark Fortress. You gain some skill ranks here. Encountered a couple of more factions. And now we need to basically start building up the Writhing Fortress. This is going to be our headquarters, our center of operations moving forward. Extremely important to get 2 things going in this settlement right away. One of them being growth, the other one being income. Both of those are extremely important at the beginning of the game. Now, with Archaon, let's go ahead and do our skill ups here. I normally just go, at the early part of the game, I go with him being a tougher melee combatant. Same thing for Ogrix. Take a look here at Ogrix's Marks of Chaos so you can see. I think these are the same all the time, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Anyway, some of them, well, looks like pretty much most of them shouldn't be too difficult to get. All right, and then what we want to take a look at. We do have a couple of additional options here to think about now with respect to our army composition. So we can go ahead and recruit in, at this point, Hell Cannons. Now, I'm not going to do that, and the reason is because you can recruit these in at any time, and since we're obviously done with our movement for this turn, there's no reason to recruit it this turn because we'll have to pay the extra 270 in expenses for every end turn that it's in our army. So there's no reason to not go ahead and wait a little bit. Okay, then you've got Warband recruitment. I probably should have actually done this before we attacked the Dark Fortress. So there you go. There's one lesson that you can learn from my mistakes, that you actually would have been better off to go ahead and recruit these units in before attacking the Dark Fortress. Of course, it's a little bit random which units are ever going to be available for Warband recruitment. And then one other thing is we have unlocked the Regiment of Renown. So again, just like with the Hell Cannon, this is here for us to recruit at any time that we want to. There's no reason to pay the extra upkeep just yet, so we will hold off before we recruit this. And then you can also take a look, if you want to, at your Warband upgrades, however, there's not really any upgrading from one tier to the next that's available just yet. And then finally, you've got your Gifts of Chaos. So it depends on which Warriors of Chaos faction you're playing. I generally take, for example, the Ruinous Bulwark when I'm playing Festus, because I know that I'm going to be attacking Middenheim right away, and Middenheim is a walled city. However, with Archaon, he is not going to be fighting a walled city anytime soon. More on that in a minute, actually. But he does have lots of Marauder units in his starting army. So with him, I usually lean towards Raider's Raiment. Taking a look now at our strategic situation, we have vassalized Kull, and we are still at war with Exquisite Pain. So our next target pretty much is going to be monoliths of Bubonicus. Now, it's just going to take us longer to get there than it would in vanilla. It's probably just as well that it's going to take us a little bit of time to get to them, because we need a little bit of time to replenish. Let's take a look at the diplomacy. And at this point, we could make nice with Bloody Sword. We could go ahead and not get a non-aggression pact with them. I am going to recommend that you not do that, and there's a very important reason why. However, you do have a little bit of choice in this, and I'll get into that in just a second. You could also make peace with Exquisite Pain. Again, I don't recommend doing that. So let's talk about this minor Cornish faction. So you could get a little bit of money out of them if you wanted to make nice with them. However, they own territory that is a dark fortress. We can't see it yet. All we can see here are their minor settlements. But right over here, the Howling Citadel, that is a dark fortress. And so I recommend not getting a non-aggression pact with them, because that is going to be our next target after we finish off Exquisite Pain, of course. So here we go. We're back to considering our Gifts of Chaos Undivided, and at this point, like I mentioned, there's the option for Shatterstone. I'm going to go with Raider's Raiment because we have lots of Chaos Marauder units, and we might as well give them a little bit of a buff here in these next few battles that we're about to have. And as you can see, we're now losing 50 per turn from that Gift of Chaos. Let's go ahead and end our turn. Now, one thing with Archaon is he does benefit from having vassals. The more vassals you have, the more income of souls per turn, so it reduces your upkeep in souls per turn, so that's pretty important to remember as well. Okay, not a lot happening over the end turn. We did gain another rank here for Archaon. We got our buildings constructed, of course. So let's go ahead and apply our rank here. I'm just going to continue to choose hard to hit because I like to focus on making him a really formidable melee combatant in the early going. My rationale for that, by the way, is that I will be recruiting some Chaos Sorcerers and I'll be putting them in his army, and therefore it's less important that Archaon himself be able to cast spells because I will be using my Winds of Magic with the Chaos Sorcerers. Okay, we can, in this case, this is obviously random, but we can go ahead and recruit one more unit of Slaaneshi Marauders here. And, okay, if our next target is the Monolith of Bubonicus, with the campaign movement reduction mod that we're using, it is going to take us a while to get there. So we want to go as fast as possible, and that means going into March stance. We can at least do this, stay in March stance, and still be able to replenish a little bit over this end turn. So that's what we're going to do. We want to get there as fast as possible, but be aware that meanwhile, because it's taking us longer to get there, that they are going to be recruiting an army and then recruiting units into that army, and it is going to make that second battle much more challenging than it would be in vanilla when you can get there a little bit quicker. So again, we have the gifted Hell Cannon that we could pull into the army, and again, there's no reason to go ahead and recruit it just yet. It will still be there next turn, and the same thing is true with the Regiment of Renown. And as you can see here, there are currently 9 units in that garrison. It's in the same province that we're already in, so there's not any additional units, warband recruitment that we can do in that region just yet. Okay, taking a look at the diplomacy here. Not much has changed. We've already talked about why we don't want to make peace with the Khorne faction here. However, at this point, Kull likes us enough that we can go ahead and do a trade agreement. There's absolutely no reason not to do that. Now, the vassals in this game are fairly worthless, but you can at least get a little bit of money out of them. You can also borrow armies from them when you build up enough allegiance, and that tends to be the thing that I do the most often. And then again, you've got Exquisite Pain here. We could happily, or they would be happy to make peace with us. They'd offer us a lot of money. It's an option. You could go ahead and do it and get a quicker start on step 2 of this campaign. I don't recommend doing it. I like to go ahead and get this enemy out of the way so I don't have to deal with them later. I actually intend to vassalize them, and as we mentioned before, Archaon does benefit from multiple vassals, but it's probably not completely necessary that you do it, so this is maybe one of the first places where you have a bit of a choice between different options. Again, we could go ahead and add in a second Gift of Chaos at this point if we wanted to. Again, pretty much Ruinous Bulwark would be the one that I would normally take second. We're at exactly 1,000 souls. I'm not going to do it yet because it's not really going to be all that valuable to us in the next few battles, and there will be time to add it later on when it really matters. And the fact that we have to pay upkeep every turn is certainly a consideration. Okay. In this case, we got a random event. This is going to happen periodically. Not really terribly important what you choose here. It's not going to have any real impact on the overall course of the campaign. I don't want the reduction in growth, so I'm going to go ahead and choose this option. And there we go with our technology researched, so that's good. Now, we are not able to recruit anymore to our warband. This is good. I'm glad that everything's not breaking our way. And now is a good time to go ahead and get the Hell Cannon added into your army, as well as the Regiment of Renown. I'm going to recommend that you move to here, the very edge of your province, but not go into the enemy province so that you can still benefit from replenishment. Now that and I'll explain why in a second, but now that we've done that move, we can see the enemy army over here. They are recruiting. They're at a 5 stack right now. The enemy garrison is up to 9 units, although they're not quite at full strength. And so we're already looking at 14 enemy units, but here's the important consideration, is that we're still not close enough to be able to attack them next turn. This is why I normally would suggest just moving to where we're standing right now, so that we can get this extra replenishment. But what I'm going to do, just for illustrative purposes here, is I'm going to show that you can move into the enemy territory here, in other words, going the full length of what your march stance allows you to do, and I will show you that you're still not going to be close enough to attack next turn from here. Now back here at the Writhing Fortress, there's not really anything we can do. We're 2 turns away from being able to go ahead and level this up to the 2nd level. We can, however, go ahead and choose our technology. In this case, I tend to lean thematically, which means I tend to go with this Dark Diplomacy. It's not, practically speaking, a particularly useful technology, although it does lead to better technology, so you have to take it at some point. But in any case, this is the one I go with more for thematic reasons, because Archaon does get so many benefits out of having more vassals. You can see here some of the other options. It's really up to you which way you want to go in terms of the direction of your campaign. This is just my own personal choice. And back at the diplomacy screen, Bloody Sword no longer wants to make nice with us. Neither does anybody else. Exquisite Pain would still love to get a peace treaty, but we're not interested in that, obviously. So we are going to go ahead and end our turn. Okay, and so Kull is just moving over in this direction as well. That's fine. They're not going to get there in time to really provide any benefit. And so here we are. We're at turn 5. Now this is normally around time in vanilla where you'd be bearing down on the last settlement. that Exquisite Pain has, and in our case, we're not even at their second settlement. So let's take a look here at Kull, and we can at least get some allegiance from them by accepting their ally mission. This is a good time to go ahead and do that. Doesn't hurt. Not a real game changer, but there's really no reason not to do it. And so here we are. This is what I wanted to illustrate. From here, you're still not close enough to attack this turn. It is what it is. You know, we'll just do the best we can. Now, what we can do is go into encampment stance, and at least we can get a little bit more replenishment before we attack next turn. This at least will get you close enough that you can still attack next turn. Let's go ahead and recruit the one and only unit that is available to us here. And as you can see, we're now up to 14 units, and they're meanwhile continuing to get stronger over there in that settlement. It's okay. It's all right. Nothing to fear. Their garrison is almost fully replenished. It's fine. We can handle it, and we're still 2 turns away from being able to level up the Writhing Fortress. Now, we can go ahead and do Ruinous Bulwark if we wanted to. We're not going to. Again, no reason to pay that upkeep at this point. Let's just go ahead and end our turn. And here comes Kull, a little bit closer. But again, not close enough to really help out in this fight, so who needs them? Ancient Agony, okay, we gained diplomatic relations with them, really fairly irrelevant. We can see the garrison's a little stronger, and they have now recruited up to 13 units. Well, that matters because we're going to attack this turn. Now, we have our Hell Cannon, we have our Regiment of Renown here, and we've got a stack of 14 units. Just taking a look here, refreshing my memory on what is special about this Regiment of Renown. Okay. And obviously, let's go ahead and recruit any additional units that are available into this army. Every little bit helps at this point. We want to make our army as strong as possible because this fight is now going to be more difficult because they've had more time to recruit. So here we go. Now we're getting a close victory. So you could still auto-resolve at this point. It's very interesting how all these units that he recruited in are recruited in at such a high rank. You know, it is what it is. Okay, and so if we do go ahead and auto-resolve it, which we will, we're not going to lose any units, which is very, very nice, but we are taking a ton of damage. It's okay. Just goes to show, if you fight these manually, you should be able to outperform what's happening here with the auto-resolve. But even on auto-resolve, this is still very doable. It's just more difficult than it is in vanilla. Now, your different options here, you could go ahead and occupy it. I don't personally tend to do that. I think thematically it makes the most sense to just go ahead and gift this to our vassal. I don't tend to like to try to defend these minor settlements anyway. I tend to really just hang on to the dark fortresses, but also there could be a point in time where you are taking a settlement that has a valuable resource that you want to make advantage of. Those might be others that are worth keeping, but generally speaking, I just tend to gift these minor settlements to vassals as often as possible. Now, Prince Ogrix here has unlocked some paths to glory. I feel like this is maybe a minor bug in the game right now that you have to keep clicking, that it like unlocks the same path of glory over and over again. Okay, we also got a little magic item here, not a big deal. And we've secured the province, which is quite nice. We've also encountered Boris. That's a little bit concerning, but it's okay. As you can see, we've got all these different messages for unlocking these paths to glory, whatever. And then we recruited our units, okay. Okay, yeah, let's take a look here at the Paths of Glory. We unlocked Master of Massacre. That's good. And we will eventually unlock the others. We can, with enough souls, later on devote him to a Chaos God. That will be up to you later on. We will not get that far in this video. So you have a couple of different options here in terms of how to level up Prince Ogrix. Ordinarily, because he is an anti-infantry unit, I tend to lean into that as his specialization. However, you've got a couple of options here. And quite frankly, when you're using the grand strategy mods, I find that all of a sudden your casualty replenishment becomes extraordinarily important. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take Chaos Strategist in order to improve the replenishment. And then with Archaon, you've got a lot of different options that you can go with here. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the blue line with most of the legendary lords, at least as a priority goes. So I tend to decide what I want to do with them in battle first. And in his case, I want to make him stronger in melee. As we can see, we got another arcane item. Nobody to give that to just yet. All right. Now, we want to go ahead and start moving towards our next big target, which is to go ahead and finish off Exquisite Pain. We can move in March stance and still be able to get replenishment, which is definitely needed right now. And we're not going to be able to reach next turn. We'll be able to reach in 2 turns. Stormvrak Mount. They have a garrison size 9. This is a settlement that is within Cole's area where you could give it to him, but that's not what we're going to do. We'll get to that in a second. Take a look here at the Dark Fortress. Now that we can do a commandment, you've got a couple of different options. What I generally do is I like getting the minus 10% for the construction, particularly because we're only 1 turn away from needing to build the level 2 settlement building in that Dark Fortress. And then keeping in mind that we still have as our next big target the other Dark Fortress over there that currently belongs to Bloody Sword. We're back in a situation where we can see they're doing okay. They are at war with Boris, which is a war that they will lose in the long run. Boris will definitely win that war in the long run, and we're going to try to take advantage of that. And Cull is just going to go ahead and move into their new territory that we gave to them. They must really like us now. Okay, we got ourselves a quest.
Be wary, though.
This is a quest for later. I don't remember exactly what the map looks like, but I do remember it is quite a difficult battle. So I do not intend to do that in the very beginning of this campaign. If you're able to do that, you know, good for you. That's a pretty major achievement. I think it would actually just be impossible to do this early, and it would certainly slow down the most important thing, which is to start getting another Dark Fortress under our belt. So our different options here, we can look at these different stances. I am going to go ahead and move as far as we can just to make sure that we can reach our next target in the next turn. So here we are back in March stance. You can see he's got another army recruited here. He's going to start recruiting more units into it, but it's okay because this is actually going to be an easier battle than the previous one was. Still, there's no reason not to go ahead and recruit in as many new units as you might want to. We could go ahead and get 3 more in. However, there's no reason to do it this turn because they will still be there next turn. So again, we can save ourselves a little bit of upkeep by not recruiting them just yet. We're going to go ahead and upgrade the Dark Fortress, and now we can change our commandment again. And since we don't want to suffer the control penalty turn after turn, let's go ahead and change it over to the Chaos Undivided Corruption. Take a look at the diplomacy here real quick, and not really a whole heck of a lot going on here to be expected, other than, of course, Exquisite Pain would love to bribe us into peace. Look at this. They would pay more than 6,000 gold at this point in order to have peace with us. It's an option. You know, again, you could let them live, and you could go ahead and take that boost of money. I don't really think we desperately need the money at this point. And also, if you let them live, there's an excellent chance that Boris or somebody else will just end up taking that territory. And, you know, it's not something, I tend to take it as much so that our enemies can't have it as the good that it does us. But also, we will vassalize them, and Archaon does at least benefit from having more vassals. I was thinking in my mind that this video would probably go for, oh, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes. And yeah, we're already well over that, and we're a little bit more than halfway through what I would consider to be the strong start for Archaon, so we're going to keep going a little bit more. Okay, so we got another random event here. This is another one where it probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference what you choose. I'm just going to go ahead and take the additional allegiance with Cull. It's not a game changer regardless. Got our technology research, that's good. Now, obviously what we're going to do is we're going to attack, but
Northmen come.
let's take a look here at Cull. They are willing to give us a mission in order to destroy that last army of Exquisite Pain, so why not? Doesn't hurt. Always a good idea to check those ally missions periodically. And yeah, their garrison is still at 9. Their army has 4 units, not terribly strong, so even though we're weakened, this shouldn't be too much trouble. But again, there's no reason not to go ahead and recruit in a few additional units. Now I am going to just take the Marauders and the Horsemen there. Those are my preferred units to have in Archaon's army. And we'll go ahead and launch the attack here. Decisive victory. So as you can see, we can auto-resolve it. We would lose the spawn of Nurgle. This is obviously an example of where you could fight this battle manually and very definitely win it without losing any units at all. We're just going to continue the theme, which is to auto-resolve, just to establish the baseline of, you know, the worst case scenario in if we follow this particular strategy at the beginning of the game. So we've lost that 1 unit, we've gained a rank, and most importantly, well, we also gained some armor. Won't say no to that. So now we're at a decision point where you could say, all right, let's vassalize them. You could say, let's gift this to Cull instead. I don't think there's a right or a wrong necessarily, but thematically, because Archaon benefits from more vassals, I usually go ahead and default to subjugating here. It does give you a benefit with the amount of souls that you lose every turn, meaning the more vassals you have, the fewer souls you lose every turn. So there's that benefit. Okay. So first enemy conquered, turn 8. And yeah, let's just go ahead and take a look at this. So here you can see the souls are plus 25 per turn for each vassal. We've now got 2 vassals, so we're actually earning an income of plus 50 per turn from our vassals on souls. Exquisite Pain, they don't like us very much, but that relationship will obviously improve over time now that they're a vassal. I think it'll only be a couple turns before they will be willing to trade with us. And again, our relations with Cull are fine. There are some times where you get multiple vassals where they don't like each other, and that can affect your relations, but it's not going to be a problem yet. Okay, now it is time to decide what our next target should be. So we can see over here, we've got Boris, who's going to be long-term a big problem. We've got obviously Bloody Sword with their 2 settlements over here that we can see. We're not terribly interested in those. We are interested in something else, which we'll get into in a moment. Let's go ahead and do our skill up here. So one option that we have here for Archaon is Foe Seeker. However, I'm actually not going to do that at this point. I'm going to go ahead and back out of that. And at this point, I start to say, okay, we want him to also be a good field commander as well as just a strong warrior. And so in my mind, I've at this point already decided what I want to do with Archaon. This is a choice that you have, depends what kind of units you might want to specialize in. I think it's thematic for Archaon to be at the head of a vast army of Chaos Warriors, and maybe even the, what are they called? The Aspiring Champions? Is that what they're called? Anyway, so those are basically your strong melee infantry. Those are the ones that I envision being the bulk of the roster in Archaon's army. So I'm going to go ahead and start moving towards improving those which is this Chaos Vanguard non-demonic infantry buff. And then with Prince Ogrix, we can now take a look at what we want to do with him. Deadly Blade is always an option, but at this point, as soon as they become available, I usually go ahead and choose one of these in the red line. And again, it's up to you what you want to do, but I like to kind of lean into him just being as strong as possible in melee, so I'm going with Ruinous Wrath. Again, taking a look at his Path of Glory, we've already looked at those. I'm going to leave him on his Chaos Steed, and the reason is because I am probably going to get some Marauder Horsemen into this army and develop them into Knights, and I want him to be the leader of sort of a mobile squadron. Okay, now we want to move as close as possible towards our next target. Now, what I'm going to recommend here is going up and taking this Dark Fortress that is in Khorne, this minor Khorne faction territory. However, it is not your only option. Another option would be to go southeastwards into Skaven territory. There's a Dark Fortress down there as well. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and head towards the Howling Citadel for this playthrough. It's going to take us a little while to get there, so we basically want to go as fast as possible, and at least we can replenish for the first few turns. Go ahead and pick our next technology at this point. You've got the Erection of Ruinous Monuments. That's probably what I'll go with, but it is not the only option. There are some others that might appeal more to you. One of them that I would consider at this point is Culling of the Weak, because this does help out with the Marauders and Marauder Horsemen being expendable, as well as having the additional souls from battle, which is always very important. But again, at this point, I'm going to stick with my original theme and go up here to Erection of Ruinous Monuments. I really like the construction time minus 20% for all buildings. Warband recruitment, at this point, we could get another unit in because we lost the Chaos spawn, but the only ones available to us are Chaos Warhounds. I'm going to lean more into melee infantry in this army moving forward, so I'm not going to take either of those. And again, at this point, we could go ahead and choose our additional Ruinous Bulwark. I think at this point we've built up enough souls cushion that we can go ahead and start paying the additional upkeep. It won't be that long, and it will really help us up here in the battle at that Dark Fortress, because that is going to be a walled settlement. So it wasn't important up to this point. It will be moving forward. Okay. Let's go ahead and check our diplomacy out. Bloody Sword, they'd still like to make nice with us. Obviously, we don't want to do that. However, if you wanted to make the Skaven your next enemy, you could. It is an option. It's not the Pillar of Skulls down here. It's not Tribe Slaughter. It is down here, Karakdum, boom, Dark Fortress. So that's a good alternative if you'd rather not go to war with Bloody Sword. We haven't discovered the Skaven yet, so I don't know exactly how strong they are. The reason I tend to go with the Howling Citadel as the second Dark Fortress is because I don't want Boris to get it. I would rather have it and be able to bring the fight to Boris from our two Dark Fortresses up there, as opposed to allowing him to get it and it being much more difficult in the long run to get it. Because Boris is almost certainly going to be our next major enemy. Okay, now we get the mission issued to grow your forces. A little bit late since we've already filled up our army, but hey, it is what it is. Now, we want to go ahead and move forward as fast as possible to try to get up there. However, it looks like we can get almost our full movement and still stay within the area where we can replenish. And at this point, every little bit of replenishment is kind of important. I'm going to go ahead and take another Marauder, fill out our roster all the way to a full 20 stack. Specializing in the type of unit that I want to have here long term. Back to the Writhing Fortress, 2 turns before we'll be able to upgrade that. And then when we do, the priority is going to be to keep getting more income, because as you can see, our income at this point is not very good. Take take a look at the diplomacy here. Bloody Sword is still almost as strong as, but not quite as strong as we are. Nobody wants to do a trade agreement with us yet, but I think Exquisite Pain will soon. Just taking a look again. Our army is, you know, a little bit more replenishment. It'll be fairly tough. It'll be fairly strong. Hopefully it will be enough to take the Howling Citadel, and we will find out in a couple turns. But for now, let's end this one. You can see that Boris has already taken the Burning Monolith from Bloody Sword here. So they're locked in a pretty desperate struggle that Boris is definitely going to win in the long run. You probably could intervene at this point if you wanted to go against the Skaven. Then you could make nice with the Bloody Sword. You could intervene and maybe help out this Cornish faction to fight off Boris. I'm not sure what the advantage to that would be. You could not at this point afford two different armies, I don't think, so you couldn't both take the Skaven Dark Fortress and also fight a meaningful war against Boris, and we're not going to here. Okay, so you can see the Cornish army here is fairly strong, which is why their strength ranking is, well, they're middle of the pack. They're a little bit weaker than we are, whereas Boris is considerably stronger than we are at this point. That will definitely be a cause for concern here very, very soon. If we don't declare war on him, he will almost certainly declare a war on us very, very quickly. But for now, we're just going to race right through the middle of the contested territory here. Doesn't matter that we're going to tick off Khorne. They're not going to declare war on us. And yeah, we just need to get up there towards that Dark Fortress as soon as possible. Let's go ahead and check with Kull. Right now they don't have any ally missions, and so I don't think there's anything to do with them. Actually, let's go ahead and check the rest of our diplomacy while we're here.
Delectable.
Nothing special. Taking a look here, this is going to be another potential enemy. This is Epidemius. He's only got the 2 regions right now. He's not terribly strong. He's not as strong as Boris is anyway, and he doesn't hate us the way that Boris does. So he's less likely to be your next big opponent, less likely than Boris is. This is his territory over there. We'll worry about that later. We're only 1 turn away from finishing the Writhing Fortress here. So let's go ahead and switch our commandment over to Exploit Vassals so that it will be a little bit less expensive to upgrade the other buildings. It's worth paying the -4 control for now. And then let's go ahead and, I guess, just end our turn. Okay, here we go. So, again, Boris already going to declare war on us. Boom, there we go, okay. Well, it is what it is. It's not surprising. Let's go ahead and pull our vassals into the war as well. He's not close enough to attack us, and in fact, he didn't see exactly how far he went there. He's not going to attack our Dark Fortress this early in the game, so you don't have to worry about that. So I wasn't really too concerned about him declaring war at this point. You can see now that Khorne army, I thought maybe they might try to attack him, but apparently not. They're 17 units. They're not weak, but they will absolutely lose in a battle against Boris. And Kull. Okay, so this is a little bit of a concern. I would rather Kull just not even do anything other than defend his own territory, because what's more likely to happen is he'll get himself attacked by Boris and basically provide free experience for Boris. All right, war's declared. Got our construction complete. That's good. Let's go ahead and take a look here. At this point, got a couple different options which way we could go. You could, if you're really worried about defense, you could build the Haunted Tower. I don't recommend it. If you're worried about control, you could build Vassal Emissary. You could upgrade the money or the growth, or you could take a look at the military buildings. And one thing that you may want to consider that I will do here shortly, but not yet, is build this Chaos Shrine. What I generally do at this point is to just increase my income. It's the most important thing. We could do both. We could go ahead and build the Chaos Shrine, which would allow us to recruit a Chaos Sorcerer. However, I'm not going to do that because I know I want to have enough money to be able to build up this Dark Fortress over here once we take it. So I'm going to save the money for now. Going to go ahead and move as far as we can towards the Howling Citadel. We're not yet at war with Khorne, so it's okay. We're not in any danger of being attacked by Boris. We can see already the Howling Citadel has a garrison of 19. This is going to be a very tough nut to crack. So this, again, big difference between the mods that we're using for Grand Strategy versus Vanilla. This is going to be a much, much more challenging fight than it would be ordinarily. Not only is it happening later in the game, but it's a much stronger garrison. Okay, back to Boris. You can see here, he's strength rank 53, quite a bit stronger than us, quite a bit stronger than Bloody Sword. He is a concern, but I don't think... Well, yeah, let's go ahead and check and see if our allies have any missions to fight him. At this point, they do not. Okay. Not really a big deal. We could use our allegiance at this point. We have enough that we could request that army if we really wanted to. I don't really see what a 3-unit army, what benefit we would get from a 3-unit army, but hey, it's an option. In any case, I don't think we have to worry overly much about Boris until we go ahead and accomplish taking the second Dark Fortress. So we're going to ignore him for the time being. And we're going to go ahead and end our turn. Okay, so all he's doing right now, he's just raiding. It's fine. Raiding our vassal, but it's really not a big deal. Okay, Khorne is still not attacking him. I don't blame him. And then let's hope that Kull here does not make himself an easy target for Boris. He very well might. It happens. Sure looks like he's going to. So let's see how far he moves here. He is headed towards the Burning Monolith, which is interesting. It's hard for me to tell whether he's close enough to get attacked or not. So, okay, we got another option here. Unbridled Ferocity or Overpowering Force. We're going to go with this. Okay, got our technology researched. That'll be handy. Encountered the Jade Custodians. Whatever. Okay, so yeah, so he's headed towards the Burning Monolith. I don't think he'll actually get there to take it, but we'll see what happens. Now, if we were to switch over into regular stance, we are not quite close enough to reach the Howling Citadel just yet. So we're going to go ahead and replenish a little bit more. Probably wouldn't hurt anyway to get the additional turn of replenishment. They're not recruiting any new units into there, so the extra one turn is not really helping them. It is helping us a little bit. We could replace some of our existing units with fresh ones if we really wanted to. I'm not going to bother to do that, but it is an option if you prefer. But for now, we're not going to declare war. We're just going to wait until next turn to do it. Writhing Fortress over here. At this point, again, we've got enough money. We're one turn away from finishing the upgrade of our income building. We could, at this point, go ahead and build one of these others. But again, I'm still not going to because I'm going to save the money for our our next Dark Fortress. Let's go ahead and take a look at our technology. Now, I think you got a couple different options, but I'm probably going to lean towards Culling of the Week here. Yeah, let's do it. Check the diplomacy out real quick. Okay, so Exquisite Pain is now willing to be trade partners with us. There's no reason not to go ahead and do it. It's not very much money, and it's not going to be very much money on a turn-by-turn basis either. Even with 2 trading partners, we're only getting 119 per turn, but it's better than nothing. Okay, go ahead and end our turn. Boris is not close enough to attack Kull. That's good. And he's now actually not even raiding our vassal's territory. He's back to raiding Khorne's territory. And Khorne, oh, he looks like he wants to take the Burning Monolith. Well, he probably will succeed. It will be short-lived. He's about to be in a world of hurt, mostly because of us, but also because Boris will certainly be picking him apart here in the very near future, even without our help. And we're actually going to be helping because we're about to take Bloody Sword's capital. Kull is just kind of running around. He's doing a sightseeing tour because, you know, this is very interesting. Very lovely this time of year. The Chaos Wastelands. He's moving his second weaker army closer to Boris for some reason. No idea what he's thinking. Okay. Got a mission to capture many provinces, whatever. We'll get there. Just not in this video. Got our Spoils of War built. That's good. Okay, so the moment of truth right here. We can go ahead and go into our attacking stance. We could, again, reconsider whether we wanted to switch out any units. It's an option, but I'm leaning towards not doing that. I don't think it's going to be necessary. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Bloody Sword, their strength rank 154. We're at 113. They kind of hate us already, and it's about to get a lot worse. Our allies still do not have any missions to give us related to that. Not surprising because we're not all at war with him yet. All right, here we go. We're going to declare war. Bring our vassals in. We're going to go ahead and launch an attack here on the Howling Citadel. So again, this is a situation where his garrison is extremely strong, but we can beat them. You could probably do better than what we'll do here in Auto Resolve. Although I'm surprised, with Auto Resolve we really only lose the one unit. That's interesting. Okay, so there we go. You can see how much damage we took, though. That really depleted our army considerably, but it is very doable, even with the stronger garrison. Plus we get some really good loot out of it. Gained 2 levels with Archaon. It's probably on the strength of our characters that allowed us to win that. And then we are going to go ahead and do the old occupy and vassalize. Now, unfortunately, we're not vassalizing Bloody Sword. We are instead vassalizing, I forget the name of this Norse confaction. Got ourselves a couple of regiments of renown unlocked. Okay. So, there we go. I think this is going to be a good breakpoint. 13 turns in. You, at this point, have got a pretty good start. We've got Tong, that's the name of them, okay? So, pretty good start here. We've got our second Dark Fortress. We're weakened, but we can replenish. And we'll be in much better shape now with 2 Dark Fortresses to be able to take on Boris. Our infrastructure is going to be in much better shape. We can get another income building going over here. And, yeah, at this point, the world is your oyster. As Archaon, you can kind of go in multiple directions at this point. We've got to deal with Boris. That's obviously a big concern. The main thing that you may want to do is let Boris and Khorne here fight each other, weaken each other, and you pick up the pieces. You could go west and attack the Crystal Spires. That is a Dark Fortress, so something to keep in mind. However, this early in the game, the Godslayer faction here is fairly strong, so I don't really recommend attacking them just yet because you already have 2 enemies that you need to deal with. That probably should be the priority, but it's an option. And then, of course, you've got the Skaven to the southeast, so that is an option as well. So, yeah, here you go. Fairly strong start. Again, you got your full stack. Lost a couple units along the way, but that's going to happen considering all the handicaps that we gave ourselves. Writhing Fortress here in pretty good shape. Got good favor overall. Pretty decent income at this point. I think it would be a good time to go ahead and start raising a second army. You don't really have to worry about an invasion by Boris at this point, but you do want to start being able to push him back. start taking his settlements from him, and it might be hard to do that with just the single army. So got a bunch of different options that you could choose from here for your next lord. Again, at this point, it's really completely up to you, but I think this is probably a good time to start the second army. All right, well, there we have it. Strong start. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Hope it is helpful to some of you. And in any case, if you're still with me, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.